أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Peace and blessings be upon you all. Welcome once again to Ahlul Bayt TV and the Ark of Salvation series. Our discussion today is on the differences between Christianity and Islam. And as always, our esteemed guest, Sayyid Mustafa Qazwini, is here. Let's welcome him and start the show straight away. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyidina.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, as I said, the title is The Differences Between Islam and Christianity. But my first question is, are there any similarities between these two great religions?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين والصفوة من أصحابه الميامين. There are a lot of similarities between Islam and Christianity. The Christians, they believe they are monotheists. And the way they explain the Trinity is that the Trinity refers to one entity, one God. But however, this God has three departments, if you will. So the belief in God is one of the similarities. But however, when we come to the peculiarities of God, we are different on that. We are different. And even within Islam, within the Islamic tradition, we have some Muslims who believe in tajseem or tashbih. Tajseem means God has a physical entity. They say, what's wrong with that? He can be anything. He is God. He can be anything. So he has a face, and you can see his face on the Day of Judgment. He has an arm. Yadullah fawqa aydihim. Of course, we disagree. We tell them these are metaphors. These are not to be taken literal. And we have tashbih, that God resembles this and that. So even within Islam, when it comes to the identity of God and the subject of monotheism, this is a very vast subject. There are disagreements among the Muslim sects and schools of thought within Islam vis-a-vis the identity of God. So in Christianity, we share the belief in God with them. We share the belief on the Day of Judgment. They do believe that there is a Day of Judgment. They do believe in messengers and prophets. However, maybe we don't agree over the whole list, They don't consider the seal of the messengers, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be the messenger of God. But they believe when it comes to others, especially during the era of the Israelites, the children of Israel, they believe in many of them to be the messengers of God and prophets and apostles. They believe in some scriptures. They believe in the idea of revelation, that God reveals, They believe in the idea of angels. They believe in the idea, we share this belief that there is good and there is evil, and we're going to be held accountable to what we do before God on the Day of Judgment, the idea of accountability and responsibility. So, and they believe, some Christians, especially the Catholics, they believe in the concept of intercession, shafa'ah. They believe that their saints will intercede on their behalf. We believe our prophet, the concept of shafa'ah is embedded in the Holy Quran. With the permission, with the leave of God, the prophet, the imams, even the good ones, even the teachers, even the Holy Book, the Quran, will intercede on your behalf on that day. So, yes, there are many similarities, of course, and at the same time, there are many differences too.
Okay. This is a question more on a philosophical nature. You mentioned how Christians also believe in heaven and hell, and your position, if you like, in the hereafter is determined by your actions in this life. Many of our youth, the Muslim youth, sometimes grapple with this question when they come across verses or statements in books where it states that, heaven is for the Muslims and the criteria for entering into heaven is Islam, Iman, belief and, submission and belief. And then they sometimes wonder, they may have good Christian friends, for example, since we're talking about Christianity, who are quite sincere, maybe chaste, you know, believe in, you know, try not to drink, don't want to get involved in a sexual relationship prior to marriage. You know, some of this, obviously not all, but some of the same principles that we consider to be sacred. And then they wonder, well, if this person's living this life and has a concept of God which isn't quite the same as mine, but we're heading in the same direction, although there are differences, how is it possible that this person who's a better Christian and I'm a Muslim end up in hell and me in heaven?
The idea of reward or punishment, chastisement, which is hell or heaven, is solely God's discretion and God's rights. Maliki yawmiddin or Maliki yawmiddin. He is the final judge. And we all, including prophets, including messengers, they have to stand before God on that day. And God decides. It's up to Him, totally up to Him. Nobody can impose on Him anything. Totally up to Him who's going to take to paradise and who's going to take to the hellfire. The keys of this and that, paradise and hellfire, is in His pocket, not anyone else's pocket. He decides. However, God says that I'm not going to do, astaghfirullah, something crazy on that day against justice, against expediency, against wisdom. I am telling you the path to paradise is this. إِنَّا هَدَيْنَاهُ السَّبِيلِ إِمَّا شَاكِرًا وَإِمَّا كَفُورًا أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن. We created for him eyes, وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْن, so he can understand, he can talk, he can respond, he can hear. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن. And then we showed him both ways. This way, you walk on this path, the end of it is paradise. If you choose to walk on that one, the end of it is not paradise. We are telling you now. So he's explaining to us, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. By the time, by the age, man is in continuous loss, unless those who have safe belief and righteous deeds. So only righteous deeds would not help. Maybe it would help in other areas, such as, for instance, إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا. Then it comes to this, the conclusion, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. If any person, فَمَنْ, it could be believer, non-believer, if he does an atom weight of good deeds, we will consider it. He will see good deeds. If any person, whether Shia, Sunni, Muslim, non-Muslim, born in Mecca and Medina or Las Vegas or Paris, not being the worst cities, I am not giving an example of the worst, just an example. If he does bad, he will see bad. So God says we are not going to overlook the good deeds of certain people. And He has this discretion in His life, in His system, that maybe I can take someone for his good deeds on that day. I will take him to paradise. Maybe because of a single good deed, not so many, single good deed. Let's say he saved the life of a person. He saw an orphan, he sheltered him. He took his hand, he took him to the orphanage. He saw someone walking in the streets, putting himself in harm's way. He saw someone being wounded in an accident, he carries him to the hospital. God says, maybe because of this single deed, I'm going to save him. I'm going to give him paradise. However, we should not depend on that, in year 2007, let's say, I gave a loaf of bread to an orphan, so God is saving that for me and He's going. So no more prayers, no more fasting, no more because I did sin. No, we cannot be under this illusion that I did something good and God is going to consider this. And He Himself said sometimes I will look at, this is up to Him, not up to me. My duty here is to do good. It's like I give it this example of the police, let's say, when someone is speeding, they tell you the speed limit is 60 miles, and someone is driving at 100 miles per hour, and the police stops him. Now the police has a discretion. He's guilty, either to give him a citation, or it happened in many cases, he will tell him, okay, don't repeat this, I'm not going to give you a citation, I'm going to give you a warning, but no penalty, no citation, go, don't do this again. The police can do that, of course. He has this discretion. We don't compare, of course, the police to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are making it, easy for us to understand. God says your duty is not to exceed this speed, this limit in this life. You have to do good. Then on that day, I will decide whether I accept this or reject this, whether I send you to this direction or that direction. But our duty is not to rely on God's forgiveness. He's going to be forgiving, so let me, abandon the good deeds or my religion or my... On that day, you may find a Muslim goes to the hellfire and a non-Muslim goes to paradise. We might see that on that day. But does this mean that since this would happen, that a Muslim should not practice Islam? No. He must practice good Islam. He must practice every single religious act in his dictionary. He should, in the book, he should practice that and avoid from sinning, hoping that, inshallah, this would lead him into salvation. So going back to your question, someone who is a non-Muslim, but he has good heart, good intention, good deeds, maybe, who knows, maybe God will forgive him. Maybe God will say, listen, I know you didn't pray because you didn't get Islam, you didn't get the message, but you did goodness to your parents, to your neighbors, to your community, to the weak, to the deprived. I will accept that from you and I will send you. Maybe it will happen. We cannot condemn people now that this goes to hellfire and this one is going to paradise. The decision lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And I suppose there's a lesson in what you're saying as well, that we shouldn't take it for granted that paradise is a guarantee for us even.
The Prophet ﷺ was asked one day that, Ya Rasulullah, do you think your deeds, all these good deeds that you do, would entitle you to make it to paradise? The Prophet said, إِلَّا أَن تُدْرِكَنِي رَحْمَةُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. I am going to make it by the mercy of God, not by my good deeds. My good deeds are not, although he's the Prophet, and his good deeds, He never missed even Salatul Layl. وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَتَهَجَّدْ بِهِ نَافِلَةً لَكَ. He did not sin. لِيَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِن ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. He never committed any sin throughout his entire life. But he said, I need God's mercy on that day. I depend on God's mercy and God's virtue to send me to the paradise. So we cannot say, Al-Mu'min, always a believer, lives بين الخوف والرجاء, between fear and hope. Fear from God's punishment and hope in His forgiveness and His mercy. This is how we should. If you always fear, it's not good. It's not good. You're going to live your life in depression. If you always hope, then you're going to miss many of the important things in your life. The obligations, you're going to miss out on them. So you have to live between these two.